This is Caring for Kids on News Talk 760 WJR. Presented by the Children's Foundation. And here's your host, President and CEO of the Children's Foundation, Larry Burns.
Well, thanks, Mark. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our July episode of Caring for Kids. Tonight we have several great guests. Great lineup, as always. Joining us will be Alexander Zonjic. He's a distinguished flautist, and multimedia personality. Dr. Paul Thomas, founder of the direct primary care clinic, Plum Health. And Robbie Buhl is coming to talk about how his racing experience is continuing to impact the community in some very unique ways. It's all coming up next on Caring for Kids, here on the great voice of the Great Lakes, WJR.
It's Caring for Kids with Larry Burns.
Okay. Well, welcome back, everyone. Larry Burns here, July version of Caring for Kids in the studio. And with me in the studio is Alexander Zonjic. As everybody knows, Alexander is a renowned jazz flautist. Did I say that right?
Flutist is correct.
Flutist, yes.
But flautist is also correct.
And the owner, artistic director, and producer of numerous events in the region and beyond under the umbrella of his highfalutin, did I say that right?
Yeah, you did perfect.
Yeah. Music brand. So, Alexander, welcome to Caring for Kids.
Nice, a pleasure. And the studio audience goes crazy.
Yes, they do, always.
Nice. Great. Thanks for having me.
Well, it's always great to, I was on your radio show a couple of weeks ago.
You were? You did a great job.
So now we, thank you, we're reversing the tables, if you, so to speak.
Thank you. It's an honor.
Well, thanks. Well, welcome back. You've been on our show a few times, and I know this is your busiest time of the year.
It is. Thank goodness, because it wasn't for a couple of years.
Right. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. And so tell our listeners, this is July, and so what else is going to happen this summer?
Well, things kick off, interestingly enough, this week. Westland Smooth Summer Nights, I do 3 of those. We kick one off this Thursday. I'm doing Hartford Memorial Baptist Church, Luger Park, great event. Then we continue with Westland. I'm even doing 2 country events this year. I'm doing 2 hot summer nights, hot country nights in August. Then we move to Flint Jazz Festival, where I'll be headlining at the end of July. Great lineup, by the way. Lee Rittenauer, Bob James, and me. Peeble Bryson earlier in the week. Then we go into St. Clair Jazz Festival. Thank goodness they're all back.
Right.
That's coming up. Big lineup. Palmer Park in St. Clair, right on the lake, right next to the old St. Clair Inn there, which has been refurbished a bit.
Right, that's what I hear. Yeah.
Lake freighters go by while we're playing. It's really amazing, really quite amazing. And then Jazz on the River 25th anniversary, first weekend in August. We're talking about an accomplishment, and all hats off to Wayne County and all those people. 25 years. I've been doing that
25 years.
Yeah. We're bringing back Shoreline Jazz Festival with a very unique 3-day lineup. So needless to say, in between all of that, TV, radio, I'm working on a new record with my friend James Lloyd. We're actually 10 tracks in already, if you can imagine.
Wow.
So you know, it's is it any different than it's been for the last 40 years? No, it's the way we're very lucky. It's the way we want it.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm talking with my friend Alexander Zonjic, and we're talking about summer activities. And so you mentioned that we were on hiatus for particularly up in Muskegon, but many of your outdoor events didn't take place.
Yeah.
So one of the questions I had for you is, now that you are back with live audiences, how are the audiences?
Without a doubt, they you know, these are iconic events that most folks plan their entire summers around, and they come from all over to go to them. So when you took them away, especially the ones that are free to the public, you know, Jazz on the River is free to the public.
Free.
Westland Smooth Summer Nights is free. St. Clair is free. Shoreline Jazz Festival is a soft ticket, $25 for Friday, $45. So we took away a big part of their summer. So it's what you're saying. They're back. Big crowds, enthusiastic, so appreciative. I mean, it's almost like they come up to you like I'm the only reason they're happening, and I'm not. But they come up and it's like you've brought them back.
So you mentioned Muskegon. You mentioned the Children's Foundation.
Yes.
We're talking with my friend AZ, Alexander Zonjic. And I was involved with the original festival up in Muskegon with the University of Toledo. The inaugural.
Yes.
Which was awesome. Boney James and a few
Kenny
other.
G.
Kenny G.
Ruben Studdard, Layla Hathaway.
Yeah, it was awesome. So fast forward 5-6 years.
Yes.
We're back this time. As the listeners hopefully know, the Children's Foundation, we now have 160 partners, grantees across the state, in Ohio and a couple in Florida. But where we aren't is in Muskegon. And I know that Muskegon has a lot of issues. Mm-hmm. They need our help.
Yeah.
So when you contacted me about the festival, you indicated that the Boys and Girls Club in Muskegon was sort of the emerging nonprofit and just got a new building. And you need to, Larry, you need to connect with them, which I did.
Yes.
And so that made it a lot more easier for me to decide to be a sponsor. Mm-hmm. At the same time, we're going to be announcing a partnership with the Boys and Girls Club during that weekend.
Nice.
So, but tell our listeners about the actual festival, the lineup and what they expect and how they can find out more.
Oh, well, certainly the 2 years didn't help us there either. And that, of all the events that I do, Larry, that one is, for me, guys, I love doing this stuff. Yeah. And it's probably the highest risk one. I mean, for me to wander out of my home turf, go all the way to the west side of the state, you were probably the main reason we even had an inaugural one, because I needed sponsors.
Right.
And, of course, it worked. It worked for all the right reasons. It certainly never worked from the standpoint of net. I've learned in my business that, our profit is art. Right. And so we, with your help, kicked it off. It was rolling. COVID really affected that one because we lost sponsors. We lost the energy we had. This is the 7th, by the way.
Okay, 7th.
It's the 7th one. And so, we moved along. We loved it. We loved the location. We not only love Muskegon, but love Muskegon Heights, the diversity of Muskegon Heights, which is predominantly African-American. Right. I loved the fact that I brought an event to Heritage Landing that was cultural and really skewed African-American in terms of jazz, America's greatest, it's America's classical music,
right?
And so the whole thing has kind of chugged along and moved along in a very positive way. Lots of great support from DTE through the years, Larry Hines Corporation, Michael Olthoff, Nichols Paper, all of it. They all supported it. It kind of crashed, came back. We had our discussion. Someone you introduced me to, Dale Nesbury, president of the Muskegon Community College, big supporter from day one. And he just recently retired.
Right. Trumpet player, correct?
Trombone,
yes.
In fact, one of the big perks he had the first year was he got up and played with me, Motor City Horns, and Kenny G.
Yeah.
And
wow.
Of course,
that's pretty
for
cool.
A trombone player who runs the college.
That's a big deal.
That might have been a big deal. So they were the ones, by the way, that gave the building to the Boys and Girls Club.
Okay.
It was a former YMCA building, and now they have it. So we're thrilled that it's back. We've a couple of new partnerships. Boys and Girls Club, and West Michigan Symphony, which is really cool. I went up there and performed a Pops concert. They have a professional orchestra. They work out of the Froenthal Theater, gorgeous theater in Muskegon, and we're going to partner and do an outdoor symphony Pops on the Friday night that not only includes my music with full symphony, but also Motown.
Oh,
we're going to bring in our friend Sirius, who lost their leader, by the way, to COVID. They're going to come in, and we're going to do a Temptations review. And we're going to do my stuff. That's the Friday night, only $25. We really want it to be community. And then we got 2 full days at Heritage Landing. Mesa and her great band. I'll be there with James Lloyd and Evan Garr. Lindsay Webster, who has gone on to become a pretty big star since you first listened to her.
I met her, yes.
Yeah, and she's doing great. We've got Najee, arguably one of the great sax and flute players in the country. Eric Darius, whose career has completely taken off. Lynn Roundtree, great local virtuoso organ guy, organissimo, a guy named Jim Alfredson, and a wonderful band from Lansing called 496 West. So there it is, right there.
Yeah, we're
thrilled.
Terrific.
We're absolutely thrilled.
And how can people find out more about it?
Best way lately, because, I have an analog audience. You can steer them to websites. ShorelineJazzFestival.com. Great website, everything is there. But the way most people find out about everything I do these days is my assistant Phyllis, who we affectionately call Front Row Phyllis. So 419-280-1073.
All right.
Front Row Phyllis or ShorelineJazzFestival.com.
Great. Well, Jill and Carrie and I are going to go up there. We're going to be with the Boys and Girls Club. We're going to tour the building. We're going to take photos of that.
Wonderful.
We're going to enjoy the music. We're going to make a check presentation,
and we're going to take good care of you.
Yeah, I know you are. Looking forward to it. So, being friends with you, I kind of know what you're up to in the recording studio. And for a number of years, I knew you were working on a new album.
Took me 10 years.
10 years.
Yeah.
And I've known you a lot longer than that.
I know. It's amazing.
And it's called Playing It Forward, and it came out several months ago. It is fabulous. And so tell us about how it's been received by the audiences.
Wonderful. I kind of removed myself from that industry. I have a huge catalog of records going all the way back to 1978. There's a lot of albums.
Right.
So they've all been in circulation. They're all a digital revenue stream, a source, the way records are done. So it took a lot for me to go back into studio. COVID is the reason I made that record, because my normal schedule would have never allowed me to take that kind of time. Love doing it. Enlisted all my great friends, Jeff Lorber, James Lloyd from Pieces of a Dream, Chuck Loeb, the great guitarist, who unfortunately passed away while we were making this record. Right. So the record came out, great reviews, reintroduced me to the national audiences, continues to pay dividends. Motor City Sway, the first single, Hipster, the second single, Jazz Cafe is out now. And so I appreciate you asking. And I know you're not an average fan.
Right.
You know your music.
I do. Well, speaking of national audiences, gets a lot of play on Watercolors on Sirius. Dave Koz has his Sunday show.
Great show.
He talks about you. You hosted a Sirius segment a few months ago. And so that's the national scene right there that didn't exist 10 years ago.
Well, what did exist over 10 years ago was probably 50 powerful terrestrial radio stations that really were big for us. So we love Sirius XM Watercolors because, for the most part, they're pretty much everything for us now.
Alexander, thank you.
My pleasure.
For all you're doing, your friendship, for your partners.
Thank you to you and the foundation in particular for joining us in Muskegon. It's going to be a win-win-win.
Yeah, and it gets us meeting the Children's Foundation into Muskegon in a powerful way with Boys and Girls Club. So
wonderful. Thank you, Larry.
You're
Appreciate
welcome.
it.
That was Alexander Zonjic, a legend and a friend of our foundation. So coming up next, we're going to talk with Dr. Paul Thomas of Plum Health when Caring for Kids continues here on the great voice of the Great Lakes, WJR.
Welcome back to Caring for Kids on WJR, presented by the Children's Foundation.
Welcome back, everybody. Larry Burns here, July edition, Caring for Kids. And with me is a guest that's coming back, thank goodness, Dr. Paul Thomas. He's a family medicine physician who brought direct primary care service to Detroit and is also an author. We're going to talk a little bit about his book. But Dr. Thomas, welcome back to Caring for Kids.
Larry, thanks so much for having me here today. It's great to be back.
Yep, great to hear your voice. And I've been following you since we met a few years ago. And when we were first talking, you were kind of getting started with your very entrepreneurial medical practice. I know that it's grown over the years. So tell our listeners about the practice and how things have gone over the last few years.
Sure. Yeah, really simply, we believe that healthcare should be affordable and accessible for everyone. And we started this practice where our members pay a monthly membership, $55 or $75 monthly, to be able to come in and see the doctor anytime. They can also call, text, or email us anytime. We don't bill or use insurance, but we do recommend folks carry insurance in case of catastrophic events. And we've grown over time. I started out by myself with a few patients back in 2016. Today, we have over 1,000 patients and 3 doctors in a location in Corktown at the old Tiger Stadium site.
Yeah, that's terrific. And so over 1,000 patients, and now you have 2 other physicians helping you, correct?
That's correct.
And what have been some of your sort of biggest surprises along the way that maybe you didn't anticipate? Anything come to mind?
Well, the biggest surprise was during the COVID pandemic. And, the politicization of a vaccine that was used to help people and protect people, and it really became divisive around that. But what was surprising is that a lot of the people, regardless of the spectrum of their political beliefs, trusted us because they formed deep relationships with us as their primary care physicians. And we were able to talk a lot of people about the vaccine and had a lot of people who were resistant at first to eventually get the vaccine and protect themselves and their families.
Yeah.
So I really believe in the strength of the doctor-patient relationship, and that has carried through despite the challenges of the pandemic.
Yeah, well, that's so true. I have a number of doctors, and trusting them and believing in them is extremely important. So developing those relationships are critical. So I commend you for that. And
thank you.
You're welcome. We're talking with Dr. Paul Thomas of Plum Health. And so, it's July. We hear different reports every day about COVID and different elements of that. So what are you currently seeing as it relates to the Detroit area with some of your patients?
Well, I read today that we may have another spike coming later this summer, and that there may be a new vaccine that's tailored towards these variants that emerges this fall. And so, unfortunately, 2.5 years into the pandemic, and we're still dealing with the fallout of this coronavirus and our inability to manage it completely. And so that's due to several factors, vaccine resistance, not everybody getting the vaccine, and the variations or the mutations of the virus, and that causing problems in our population and the virus recirculating. So what I'm seeing right now is that we still need to have some level of caution. We're still wearing our masks in the office. If you go to any dental or medical office, most likely your doctor or dentist will be wearing a mask to protect themselves and protect others. And I think that we need to take some measured approaches to fighting the virus, like masking in high-risk areas and continuing safe hand washing, and being vigilant as this virus may circulate again in our community in the later summer.
Yeah, so utilizing some of the things that we've learned over the last few years about hand washing and being safe is not going away. So those are good habits to get into.
Indeed.
So one of the things that I saw on Facebook, I think it was, is that you published a book. And so I said, well, I got to have Dr. Thomas back on the show to talk about that. So tell our listeners about your book.
Yeah, actually, this is the third book that I've published. I received a lot of questions about our direct primary care practice, so I wrote a short book about that. And then I had a lot of doctors reach out about our successful DPC practice here in Detroit, so I wrote a startup guide for other doctors. And then this book I wrote is called Dressing Well in Medicine. It's about what doctors wear and why it matters. And it really gets into the history and the significance of the white coat, the doctor's bag, and what to wear to earn the trust and confidence of our patients. As we've all seen through the pandemic, dressing in a manner that inspires trust and confidence of the public is especially important. There's something called the Fauci effect, where we saw Dr. Fauci on TV talking about coronavirus, and his cool blue tones helped us to trust in what he had to say, and his calm, caring demeanor helped us to trust him as well. So I write about those topics in the book, and I think it's a great read for anybody who's interested in a career in medicine or wants to know about what doctors wear and why.
Well, I commend you for that, and for somebody who really likes clothes and getting dressed for work. I totally understand, and I think it would be a good read for almost anybody because, the way we present ourselves is very important, not only for our personal brand, but also based on being a doctor or being a lawyer or whatever, that it sets sort of a pattern for how you'll be perceived. And so I think that's a great. And when I read that, originally I said, wow, that's a great idea, because I've sort of been trying to follow those kind of things my whole career. And so what kind of response have you gotten so far?
Yeah, we got a great response so far. It's up on Amazon, and 17 5-star reviews so far, which is nice. And a lot of the medical students have been inspired by it, and it helps them prepare for their clerkship rotations and their career in residency training and beyond. And so it's been really nice to hear that. And it's kind of the unwritten curriculum or unspoken curriculum of the medical school. It talks about some specific scenarios or nuances that you might face as a healthcare provider, as a student doctor, as you go through your training.
Yeah. So as a person who wears bow ties, I've often heard that many physicians will sport a bow tie because it's a little bit easier to keep sort of germ-free during the day. Have you heard that as well?
Yeah, and it's a distinctive as well. You know, the bow tie is up, so if you're leaning over a patient, listening to their heart and lungs as they're lying in the hospital bed, it's less likely to dangle and touch the patient, maybe pick up some germs. And then it's distinctive. There's, a handful of doctors wear a bow tie, and so you kind of remember those folks. Just like I remember you, Larry. You definitely have a distinctive look. You've got a great color palette, and I love your bow ties. So,
well, thank you.
It's kind of a nice way to set yourself apart.
It's my brand.
The crowd.
Yeah, it's my
exactly.
brand. Now, a lot of people don't remember my name, but they'll say that guy, the bow tie guy. Yeah, that's the guy.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
So, well, thanks. So you kind of mentioned it, but I wanted, now that we're halfway through summer or so, and how can people, COVID aside, but with, reality that COVID is here to stay, what can we do to stay healthy in the nice weather and so that we can enjoy the outdoors? Do you have any advice for our listeners, for me, for anybody, things to remember as we go through the summer?
Yeah, take advantage of the summer. We have beautiful weather. We have one of the best parks in America, which is the Detroit Riverwalk.
Yeah, it's getting better all the time.
So many great outdoor amenities. You think of the Detroit Zoo or Greenfield Village. Get out and walk around. Obesity is a big risk factor for COVID severity, and obesity is a big risk factor for heart disease and diabetes and stroke and all of those things. So I advise my patients to get outside and walk 30 minutes a day. It's probably better to do that in the early morning or the later evening because it is quite hot outside. If you are out in the midday, remember to wear sunscreen, as you want to reduce your risk for skin cancer over time. But yeah, take advantage of this time to get out with your family, go for bike rides, go walking, and enjoy the outdoors because health, activity, movement, they're all intertwined.
Yeah, and I just recently had a birthday and my wife got me a bike. So I'm riding my bike 30 minutes a day around the neighborhood. So that's kind of replaced running. I don't run as much, but I think biking is good. Is that wise?
Absolutely, because anytime you do a sustained aerobic cardiovascular activity, it's great for your heart, your blood vessels. It can improve your lifespan and reduce your risk of having a heart attack or stroke. So anything like that, biking, swimming, jogging, rowing machine, Peloton, you name it, those things where you're sustaining activity for 30 minutes or longer is extremely healthy for your heart, blood vessels, lungs, brain tissue, et cetera. It can reduce your risk of Alzheimer's as you age, et cetera.
Great. Well, great advice. So anything else, Dr. Thomas, you want our listeners to know about Plum Health or about your book or anything before we let you go?
Sure. We have 3 excellent physicians here at our Corktown location. We're Plum Health DPC, and we are reducing the cost of healthcare for people in our community and making healthcare more affordable and more accessible in Metro Detroit. And we're really fortunate to be able to do this work every day.
Wonderful. We're glad you're there. You're an entrepreneur as well as a great doctor. And Corktown's on the upswing, so once that train station's done, it's going to be even a completely different community, don't you think?
Yeah, it's vibrant already. So many individually owned businesses that's what makes Corktown so special. In addition to our brick road, our fabulous Corktown parades and events. But yeah, the Michigan Central Station being renovated by Ford Motor Company is going to be a beautiful addition, as well as some unique apartments that are coming online on Michigan Avenue and a boutique hotel right down the street as well.
Great. So you're going to be busy. You're going to need another doctor at some point.
Yeah, very soon, actually.
Right. Thank you, Dr. Thomas. That was Dr. Paul Thomas of Plum Health. Coming up next, we're going to be talking with Robbie Buhl when Caring for Kids continues, right here on the great voice of the Great Lakes, WJR.
Welcome back to Caring for Kids on WJR. presented by the Children's Foundation. Once again, here's Larry Burns.
Welcome back, everybody. Larry Burns here. July edition of Caring for Kids. In the studio with me is my friend, Robbie Buhl. Robbie, as all Detroiters know, is a world-class race driver with over 20 years' experience on the Indy car series, and now using his racing background to make an impact on youth in our community. Robbie, welcome back to Caring for Kids.
Thank you, Larry. Great to be here.
Great to see you, too, in person. And so we're excited about some things that are going to happen later in the summer. And let's start with the Racing for Kids to the Hill. The Children's Foundation is proud and really happy to be involved again this year in a bigger way than we have in the past. But let's tell our listeners about the event and anything that's new that's going to happen this year.
Well, first, we appreciate your guys' support of that event from the Children's Foundation and
pleasure.
Stepping up with that. We go way back, but you guys making a difference for that is good for all of us.
Yeah.
And good for, all of our recipients that we're raising money for in southeastern Michigan.
Yep.
So it's good. Believe it or not, when you say, okay, my racing career for 20 years in the IndyCar circuit, our Racing for Kids hospital visits that we started, that started back in 1989. That's
Right.
30 plus years.
I was around.
Yeah, I know.
I was at Children's Hospital.
Yeah, it's time flies.
It does.
But the Racing for Kids to the Hill event is just something that, even though we're not doing as many hospital visits with Racing for Kids, we still always wanted to give back to Detroit because that's where we're from. That's where it started. So that's what the Hill event is in Grosse Pointe. It's going to be August 31st. We have an afternoon event that's free to kids and families. And, there's a scavenger hunt, there's food, there's bands, there's stilt walkers, and lots of cars on display. We'll do a crazy motorcycle demonstration where these guys, you see it on TV or on your social sites of what these guys are doing in cars, bikes, motorcycles, skateboards, but to see it in person and these guys going 40 feet in the air and doing flips when you're right there is
Right. Yeah. It's like,
jaw-dropping.
Yeah,
So
right.
we do that in the day. And again, it's free to kids and family. Come walk the street for 10 minutes. And then that evening, we have a charity event and we'll have, 500 plus people. We have an auction and a band, a great jazz band that's provided by the Dirty Dog there. And it's really a fun street fair event, supported with the Grosse Pointe Hill restaurants there. And with thanks to you guys and the Children's Foundation, again, we have some great beneficiaries of, Beaumont, Grosse Pointe, Children's Hospital, Michigan. We like them with what our history is. And thanks to your guys' support of them, we got Ascension St. John, Henry Ford. And this year, of the recipients of that, we added another program that you're familiar with and you've supported is we started a advanced driving program for teens here in Detroit called Teen Street Skills. And it truly is the best thing we can do for young drivers to make them safer, better drivers. So we've added them, to that list. And it's all about keeping, kids safer, healthier.
Right. Exactly.
Falls into line.
Yeah. So the Children's Foundation is really pleased to be a major sponsor. And the other recipients you mentioned are all partners of ours. And so, we now have 160 grantee partners. And so those hospitals you mentioned, we support and we want to do more with them. So that's fabulous. And then I've personally, along with Jill Nelson, our producer of the show, have gone through the skills with you, the driving skills.
Yeah, sure.
You scared the bejeebers out of both of us. But I learned a few things that helps me, particularly in the winter. And so I highly recommend that for anyone at 16 or above.
Yeah, you just need a permit.
You need a permit.
Yep.
Okay.
So you're 15, and again, it's a free program.
Yeah.
It's a first come, first serve sign up. We started the year last month at M1 Concourse. That was the first time we had the event there, and we run a morning program and an afternoon program, and we're in Belle Isle starting next week.
Wonderful.
Teen Street Skills. Yep. So
and how do people find out about that?
Teenstreetskills.org.
Okay.
Go on the
that's
site,
easy.
search it. It's advanced driver training. It's free for young teens. You need a permit. And again, we have some great supporters from that, and we don't want to keep anybody from signing up for that. So again, we've set that up to be a nonprofit with good supporters to get young drivers.
Yeah, and we want to support that at the Children's Foundation as well. And as we all know, or most of us know, that the number one cause of teenage death is auto accidents.
Yeah, crashes.
Crashes.
Absolutely. And it's not trending in the right direction, unfortunately.
Well, because of not paying attention. We're going to talk about that in a little while.
Yeah.
So the Hill event, how do people find out about that?
Racing for Kids to the Hill event, racingforkids.org.
.org, okay.
Yep. Again, it's in Grosse Pointe. It's August 31st, which is a Wednesday. That's historically when we've always had it. It's the Wednesday before Labor Day weekend.
Right.
Is the way we've always done that. Knock on wood, we've always been fortunate with the weather. This is the 16th year, again, that we've had this event. Racing for Kids has been around a lot longer, but again, the goal of this event, and again, thanks for your guys supporting and being a true partner of this, is to give back to southeastern Michigan,
right?
And have a good time doing it. It's a great community event. Like I say, there's just lots of good action, and it's a way to kind of finish off the summer, right? As we're rolling into
the day,
Labor Day weekend.
Yeah, the day event is super cool for kids.
Yeah.
And so that's a must, and it's free, as you said.
So the event in that evening goes from 6 to 9, and the ticket price for that, I believe, is $150.
Right.
But again, it's going for a good cause.
And there's food, and there's beverages.
Beer, and a great entertainment, great band. We'll have some other surprises there. Again, one of the things, we always try to do something a little different and a little disruptive, right? You always want to be a little disruptive things. As we talked about, how do we get, some, whether it's our National Guard or our military guys, to have a couple helicopter guys like rappel down in.
Right.
Again, what are the legalities of that with some people? Well, we still got to work through. But we're always looking to do something that just is shakes it up a bit.
Yeah, that's the race car driver in you. So, talking with Robbie Buhl from Racing for Kids and a number of other organizations, we talked about where the funds go for Racing for Kids to the Hill. Now let's talk a little bit about your new relationship with the Detroit Auto Dealers Association and the International Auto Show. And last month, Rod Alberts was on Caring for Kids, and we talked about ICE Drive program. We're very excited about that. And can you tell our listeners about ICE Drive and what you're going to do with the auto show?
Yes, thank you for bringing it up. And again, you've been a great supporter of what we've done with Teen Street Skills and ICE Drive. And so ICE Drive is something that has evolved. Our messaging of ICE Drive is come from our Teen Street Skills program, where truly we're trying to make we are making kids more confident, more aware drivers. And everything we do is all about your eyes. And we are teaching them to be confident behind the wheel. But if your eyes are on the road to react what's happening in front of you, means nothing. So ICE Drive is now kind of our takeaway message to attack distracted driving. And thanks to Rod and his team and the North American International Auto Show and the DADA, is ICE Drive is going to be an education partner for the Detroit Auto Show. So we're excited with that and getting the message out there of ICE Drive. And it's, again, this is a social digital campaign as ICE Drive, is just to remind us the importance of keeping our eyes on the road and how quick things can happen.
Yeah, that's a great message. And one of the new distractions to me is GPS. If you're driving, you don't know where you're going, you have to put in your GPS. But to do that, you have to take your eyes off the road.
No question.
And, GPS is great, and we all are now relying on it. But it also can be very distracting, particularly if you're setting it up while you're driving. So we have all these technologies like GPS that make our lives easier, better, safer. Cars are incredibly safer in terms of the technologies offered. But again, as we're using some of these technologies, our eyes are off the road to look at our device or set the system up. I mean, the best thing you can do is set it up before you go and have it talk to you. Or pull over side of the road if you're changing directions or changing locations.
And when you get to be I should say my age, my eyes are really bad, so I really have to look and focus. It's not like I can glance down.
Right, exactly.
So you've just got to be conscious of all of it. The stats are crazy. I was just looking at some Michigan stats from the state troopers here, and just to those two things of speed and distraction, I think we're up like 18% of just not just teen drivers, all drivers. It's a crazy stat of how accidents have accelerated in the last year for some reason.
Yeah.
Was that because of COVID and we thought we could go faster? Who knows what it is.
Right.
But they're going in the wrong direction.
Right.
They're going up instead of down.
Down. Yeah. Well, that's because we need more Eyes Drive programming. So it's going to be a great auto show. Rod's very excited. I'm very excited. We're one of the charity recipients of the charity preview. So we're very, very grateful for that, because that allows us to do more for organizations like Racing for Kids and other organizations. So we're excited about that. Is there anything else you want our listeners to know about Racing for Kids, Eyes Drive, Street Skills, or anything else you're up to?
Well, again, with Eyes Drive, that is just an important message that we all have to remember. It's not just directed at teens, it's for all of us. And being affiliated as an education partner with the Detroit Auto Show, we're hoping, we're still a grassroots organization. Yep. It's growing. We're getting it out there, but we got to grow that message of the importance of keeping our eyes on the road.
And one of the ways to do that is to educate kids who will reprimand their parents.
Yep.
If they're in the car with them and they're looking at their phone or doing something.
And you're right. We actually have to get to the young teens before they're driving to kind of change that behavior and approach to stuff and how they're brought up and knowing how quick things can happen.
Yeah. Robbie Buhl, thank you for all you're doing. We're looking forward to Racing for Kids on the Hill. We're looking forward to working with you on the auto show and a bunch of other things that we're doing together. So thanks for all you're doing.
Yeah, and you guys as well, and your team, Larry, with Children's Foundation, because, again, your structure, I think, and what you guys are doing in sports helps us with what we're trying to do.
Yeah, well, that's what it's all about.
The more people and the more partners we can bring together we can make a bigger impact.
Yeah.
So thank you.
You're welcome. I like to say 1 + 1 = 3 in this relationship. So thank you, Robbie Buhl. And coming up, I'm going to give some updates on Children's Foundation activities over the summer, so don't go anywhere. Well, welcome back, everybody. It was a great show. Some very good guests doing great work in the community in many different ways. A couple updates on the Children's Foundation. As I mentioned last month, the foundation recently completed its Round 2 2022 grant cycle. And I'm proud and pleased to share that to date, $7 million awarded this year and 17 new grant partners this cycle across the great state of Michigan. The Ben Hogan Championship of Michigan will be held at the Country Club of Detroit on August 22nd. Sponsorships are still available. This supports First Tee Greater Detroit. So if you like golf, you want to help kids use golf as a learning tool, we'd love to have you. Email info@benhoganfoundation.org for more information. We're also holding a very different event for First Tee. It will be a 100-hole golf marathon on September 27th. That's right, 100 holes. It's at Chandler Park Golf Course. Join us for this second annual. To do that, just go to www.firstteegreaterdetroit.org for more information. Thanks for joining us tonight on Caring for Kids. We look forward to keeping you informed throughout the month, and listen to us next month. Have a great summer. Onward.
Caring for Kids with Larry Burns on WJR has been presented by the Children's Foundation.